Oh, I have done that again where I'm daydreaming and I hit the record button automatically and I should not have, but that's okay. We will set that up in New Living. At least these are set up. Let's ready to go. This is Monday Bible Study. How's everybody doing? Just to go over a few things on the Bible Study channel. I loaded them correctly, but they loaded backwards. So, intro into Revelation study is just kind of an overview, and in that process, I realized how best to teach it. So, I hope y'all like part 1, which is Antichrist, Great Tribulation, sections of Revelation. Is that really what I called it? Overview. Okay. Antichrist, Great Tribulation, sections of Revelation overview. Ugh. I honestly don't like the name. It's just dumb. It just doesn't really, it's not very well thought out, is it? It's the Antichrist Great Trib section of the Revelation overview. You know what? That's what it is. It's just, I already know it sounds stupid. But as you go through it, you will understand in that 26 minutes and 38 seconds, not only how Revelation and by the way, if it doesn't make sense and if you don't like the way, like if 8 people have viewed it, I don't know if 8 people have watched it from A to Z, but let's just say 8 people watched it. If 7 out of 8 go, followed it, liked it, understood it, keep teaching the rest this way, and one person says it was too confusing. If half of y'all were to say this was too confusing, don't really like the way you're teaching it, I would challenge y'all when I'm done and you've gone over it to then go through and read the book of Revelation. And after you've read it, go back and watch them again. And after you go back and watch them a second time, go read Revelation a second time, and then go back and read them watch them a third time on the playlist. Obviously, the playlist is only an introduction, and we're only doing where the Antichrist and the Great Tribulation are at in the book of Revelation, which is throughout. But you can tell by the introduction, we're going to cover everything that's in the book of Revelation, basically, and just show you where it's at section by section by section by section. And some of them, Wrath, it's going to be a very long video because Wrath had, I don't know, 20 different passages. Judgment, 17 probably. I don't know. There's a lot. So, yeah. I mean, when we get the Wrath, we're going to be there all day. You can tell that I've skipped a few lines just to make it easy on the eyes, but it goes all the way down to 27 with maybe 4 breaks. So it's like 22 different passages. That's going to be a lot, y'all. And there's Judgment. That's, it's going to be pretty detailed. So I think when you see, and what's the moral of the story? After you've read Revelation twice and went through this series twice, you're going to go, yeah, Revelation it comes to us in waves. It's not written in any order whatsoever. It's written in sections. And it's the same story told 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 different ways. Like the church's seal is told in 2 different ways only. But the Antichrist and the Great Trib is probably told about 3 different ways. Maybe even 4. So, yeah. Love it. See, because if I just went all the way through it and bouncing back and forth between Wrath and Removal and, and if y'all want one like that, that would be probably a 3-part series you know, an hour at a time, probably take 3 hours to go through the entire book of Revelation and suck, you know, in order and tell you what you're reading. But that would be me going through it in order, if you would rather. Or if you would also, not rather. I'm already going to do it this way. But if you want to follow up at the end where I just go all the way through and then show you, okay, now we're in wrath, now we're in Antichrist, now we're in removal, now we're in removal, now we're in wrath, now we're in wrath, now we're in removal, now we're in heaven, now we're back to wrath, now we're back to heaven. You know, if you want that done at the end, just say so. And if I don't hear from anybody, I'm not going to know what to think because I'm doing this for y'all. I already know this stuff. I will say this, by going through the process of teaching it, I'm learning it even better. So, you know, even if nobody gets anything out of it, I'm getting stronger in it. That's for sure. Like I told you, when I get done teaching this, I will basically have my doctorate, especially if y'all request me to go through and go all the way through it in order in a 2 or 3 parts, probably a three or 4 part series, 3 or 4 hours worth. I would just stop after 1 hour. I would click the time, see what time I started, and go with it. All right. So anyway, get on with it. Go on, get on with it. What did I get that from? Go on, get on with it. Is it from a movie, a commercial? I can't remember. It's funny. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, the furnace exceeding hot, the flames of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So the big, gigantic, strong men, if you remember, that were ordered to throw them in the fire, they just got burned to death. That should have told King Nebuchadnezzar right straight up front, right there, he was messing with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or the God of all things. And yes, the Gnostics believe that they think it's funny that he thinks he's the God of all things, that he was created and got a mommy named Sophia. Yeah, well, that's called Mystery Babylon, the Great Religion. There you go. And unfortunately, y'all been handed over to that, just like people are handed over to anything else that people believe that is incorrect. But you feel it in your heart, and you feel it in your spirit, and we get that, but you got a bad day coming if the Lord doesn't call you out of it. That's all I got to say. And I'm sure I got a bad day coming before your bad day. Then Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was astonished and rose up in haste and spake and said unto his counselors, did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, O true, O king. He answered and said, lo. See, the problem with King James is there's no quotation marks. They answered and said unto the king, you should have quotation marks at the beginning of true and at the end of O king, right? He answered and said, quotation marks, lo, I see 4 men loose walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th, Jesus, is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God. Interesting. Come forth and come hither. They both mean the same thing. It's almost like he said, come here, come here. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth and came hither. I'm kidding. Of the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Period. End of tonight's study. Let's go to John. We're going to open up with yet another election predestination Bible verse. And he said, therefore, I said unto you, this is Jesus talking, that no man can come unto me except it were given unto him of my Father. From that time, many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him. Then said Jesus unto the 12, will ye also go away? Then Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? Thou hast the words of eternal life. And we believe and are sure that thou art that Christ, the Son of the living God. They just didn't understand that he had to die and rise from the dead. And they didn't understand at that time what it meant for the temple to be rent. And, that's why they were confused when he came back. Jesus answered them and said, have I not chosen you 12? And one of you is a devil? He spake of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. For he it was that should betray him, being one of the 12. After these things, Jesus walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry, because the Jews sought to kill him. Now the Jews' feast of tabernacles was at hand. His brethren therefore said unto him, depart hence and go into Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. For there is no man that doeth anything in secret, and he himself seeketh to be known openly. If thou do these things, show thyself to the world. And we'll run through this a little bit in the New Living, just to kind of round out the study. And if anything is incorrect, we will certainly cover that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I chose the 12 of you, but one is a devil. He was speaking of Judas, son of Simon, one of the 12 who would later betray him. After this, Jesus traveled to Galilee. He wanted to stay out of Judea, where the Jewish leaders were plotting his death, but soon it was time for the Jewish festival of shelters. And Jesus' brothers said to him, leave here and go to Judea, where your fellows can see your miracles. You can't become famous if you hide like this. If you can do such wonderful things, show yourself to the world. So we'll get to Jesus's response tomorrow. All right. Love y'all very much. Ask questions anytime.